Right, so the news has it that the bomber, Tony Bellew, the man who wanted to slip away from the media spotlight when he retired and live a quiet life, just after going on SAS Who Dares Win and I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, is looking to come out of retirement at the age of 41, and not just for a gimmick fight. News has it that the bomber, Tony Bellew, is in talks to face current WBC Bridgerweight champion Lucasz Rozanski. But is coming out of retirement a good idea for Tony Bellew? Just how good is Lucasz Rosansky, and how did other British greats fare when they came out of retirement? But people, before we get into all that, welcome back to the Joey Knight Boxing channel. If you are new around here, at the end of the video, if you like the content and you want to see more from myself, please hit the subscribe button. Please do me a favor right now. I never really ask for this, but I've heard it can help, so can you smash the like button right now? Let's get into the video. Now, as a general rule of thumb, I don't really like it when fighters come out of retirement, but I suppose I'm saying that with the benefit of hindsight, really, aren't I? Because ultimately, when one of my favorite fighters does come out of retirement, I'm always very excited to watch it. And I suppose it sort of hinges on how you retire. You know, if you're David Haye and your body breaks down and you literally can't carry on with your career, then I think it's probably a good idea to retire and maybe to stay retired. If you are a Floyd Mayweather, for example, when he came out of retirement, he was still pretty much in his prime. He was still young, no massive injuries, still probably the best man in and around his weight division, and most importantly, still hadn't fought all of the top names or the top contenders in his weight division. And if that's the case, as it was with Mayweather, then I definitely want to see you come back. But at the age of 41, and after claiming multiple times to whoever would listen that he wanted to slip away and live a quiet life, just why is Tony Bellew looking to now come out of retirement? Money is usually a good answer, isn't it? But no, honestly, I don't actually think that money would be the sole or even the most important reason as to why Bellew would want to come out of retirement. I mean, look, the money's not going to be bad, is it? But actually, when you think about it, right, especially with his newfound fame amongst the reality TV audience, Tony Bellew, being probably one of boxing's biggest sort of household names in the UK, wouldn't have made that much money in comparison to his peers, you know. I don't think Tony Bellew's headlined more than, what, 3 pay-per-views, maybe? 2 of them against David Haye, 1 of them against Usyk. When we look at the other sort of leading names in British boxing over the last 10 to 20 years, the likes of Fury, David Haye, Anthony Joshua, do you know what? Even Dylan White have probably headlined more pay-per-view cards than Tony Bellew. So I think that with his newfound popularity amongst the general British public, maybe viewers that weren't watching him through his boxing days but have seen him on the reality TV circuit since, you'd be stupid to think that he wouldn't be making more money. And you'd be stupid to think that if he came back, this wouldn't be whacked straight on pay-per-view. But obviously, if he's coming back, it needs to be for the right opponent, doesn't it? And in Lucasz Rosansky, I think that he has found the right opponent. So let's have a little look at Rosansky. I think it's Rosansky. Let's have a little look at him and let's see if he's any good. Right, so here he is against Alan the Savage Babbage. It's a fighter that we've seen on UK shores a lot. And Rosansky going straight for him from the opening bell, which might surprise some, you know, because Babbage had a very come-forward style when he was boxing over here. We'd seen him on multiple Matchroom shows, a couple of Sky cards, and there you go, massive left hook from Rosansky. Steaming straight in here, Rosansky, a smaller fighter, you know, definitely not big enough to be a heavyweight, probably even at Bridgerweight looks small. But you see he follows up with his shots there, comes through and dropping Babbage with a straight right hand, which we haven't really seen before. Clubbing shots round the back of the head here. He's looking for a finish against Babbage. Babbage doesn't really know where he is, taking a lot of shots. Turned on the ropes there, and yeah, the referee could do with stepping in and saving Babbage from himself here, which he obviously does. But you know what? Seeing as Rosansky pretty much bulldozed Babbage from the opening bell there, probably tactics that Babbage was not expecting, being that he is normally the bull rather than the matador, I think that he might have caught him by a little bit of surprise there. Maybe we should have a little bit more of a watch of Rosansky to see how he fares against other fighters. Maybe even a guy that's boxed at heavyweight, because I can see that he's fought Artur Szpilka, who obviously most famously got knocked out by Deontay Wilder, but had some decent wins at heavyweight, also got knocked out by Derek Chisora. Let's see Rosansky against Szpilka. So yeah, Szpilka goes without saying a better boxer than Babbage. And there straight away, Szpilka dropping him with that backhand on the way in. And that's something I'm seeing from Rosansky so far, man. He rushes in and it ain't pretty when he comes in. He doesn't really close distance well. Hasn't really got a great jab. But one thing he is showing here is tremendous heart, you know. First couple of seconds of the opening round, he's been dropped. And there you go, puts him down, puts Szpilka down with that left hook. That left hook's a weapon of Rosansky's, you know. It comes in and there, once again, chinning Szpilka. How Szpilka's got back up off the canvas after that, I don't know. But that's pretty much going to be all she wrote now. That's what, 3 knockdowns? He gets him again. Szpilka can't get out the way of that left hook or the right hand. It puts him down. And that's pretty much it. He gets up off of the canvas, Rosansky, to put Szpilka down 3-4 times, I think it was. And then the fight in a stoppage. So you've got to give him credit for that, man. He's got heart. He's got power to win. Power to close a fight. And listen, he's very, very game. But listen, I've got to be honest, man, and call it as I see it. This guy is so beatable, isn't he? He doesn't have a good jab. He rushes in, doesn't actually close the distance that well. He gets caught coming in, very one-dimensional. And I think that if you stick him in against a opponent like Tony Bellew, who can be fleet-footed but still possess power, especially countering off the back foot, I think Rosansky would come unstuck. But we don't know what sort of Tony Bellew we're getting yet. So just because I am of the opinion that a prime Tony Bellew smokes Rosansky, that doesn't mean the current version of Tony Bellew would do that, you know. And one thing Rosansky has going in his favour is he's got a very, very distinctive style, you know. He probably knows exactly what he needs to do. He probably knows what he's good at and what he's not good at. He is good going forward, sitting on your chest from the first round and throwing those big hooks, those big power shots. And I would imagine that if you're Tony Bellew coming off of a 5-year layoff, that might not be the sort of fight you'd want to come straight back into, you know. Is Rosansky there to be hit? Yes. Could you possibly chin him with a counter? Yes. But when you're feeling your way back into a ring for the first time in half a decade, I would argue that you might want someone in there a little bit more technical, a little bit more standoffish, and be able to feel your way into a fight rather than having a baptism of fire. But the key thing I've just said there is we really don't know what sort of version of Tony Bellew would be coming back to the ring after such a long layoff where, let's be honest, you know, he wasn't laid off but constantly in the gym. We know he's been going here, there and everywhere for reality TV shows. We know that he's probably not been in the gym as much. He would have put on weight and would have fluctuated quite a lot. So let's have a look at the last 2 fights from Tony Bellew's career. Probably 2 of the best performances we've ever seen from him. And that is obviously the rematch against David Haye and the fight against Alexander Usyk. Yeah, so this fight against David Haye here, I mean, mate, if he could be half as good as he was against David Haye, he's beating Rosansky. Definitely. And David Haye, obviously, yes, he was shot to pieces by this point, but David Haye pulled something out the bag in this match. And you see him from Bellew there, man. His jab, really, really good. And yeah, definitely a showman, as you see here. The ability to absorb a punch, very good from Bellew. Takes David Haye's best shot there. Again, that double jab. And that double jab would be such a huge factor against Rosansky, you know. Catching Haye there and showing he's got the power to really put him on his pants. And there you go, there again, catching David Haye on the ropes there. That shot that drops him there. And look at that. You don't see men of that size be able to move in as quickly and close range as quickly as that. So when you see that from the bomber, very, very good. Here he is with Usyk, you know. He had come back down in weight after obviously being heavier for the 2 fights against Haye. And do you know what? I get that a lot of people in hindsight will look at this fight and they'll say, you know, Usyk was downloading information. Usyk didn't rate his power. But let's be honest. We've never seen Usyk hit this much in a fight. We've never seen Usyk countered this much in a fight. And I honestly believe that the boxing skill set and the fundamental ability that Bellew has showed in this fight here, albeit taking some shots in the process like he just did there, that skill set that he showed is so many levels. It is light years beyond what Rosansky has ever been able to show in his career. There you go, the showmanship once again. And that's why Bellew is a household name, and that's why he would be entertaining any sort of comeback here. You can see these counters on Usyk, very good, man. It goes to show that Bellew can throw and land counters when fighters are unloading on him. And for me, that would be the key to victory against Rosansky. You know, Rosansky comes forward, throwing them bombs, and Bellew counters. But there you see it. Bellew can be knocked out. Alexander Usyk's knockout, for me, in my opinion, somewhat came through exhaustion, I would say, but I think that that's been a little bit harsh on Usyk. You know, Usyk can punch, especially at cruiserweight there. This was actually before the inception of the Bridgerweight division. So, yeah, Bellew can be hit, he can be hurt, he can be stopped, he can be dropped. But I just think that the level and the skill set of opponent needs to be of a very, very good level to be able to get Bellu in those positions. So I think it's pretty evident for anyone to see that the last version of Tony Bellew we saw in a boxing ring is levels and levels above Rosansky. Bellew's jab, timing, feet, power, explosiveness, resume, boxing IQ are all better than that of Rosansky's. And for me, I'm going to be honest, it sounds like I'm bashing Rosansky here, but the only real thing he's going to have on Bellu is activity, is time in the ring and not having that long layoff. But when you look at the ages, I think Rosansky's 38 years old, 38 to 41, not a massive age difference, not as much as you'd want if you're Rosansky to bank on and go in your favour. But as I say, the activity will be a big plus for him. But because of all the attributes I've just named, even with the layoff, even with the retirement, I think I'd still make Bellu a favourite in this one, you know, man. I really do think I would. Some people might look at Rosansky and wonder, how has this guy even become a WBC world champion? Well, that is at the courtesy of boxing's new weight division, Bridgerweight. Because the Bridgerweight division is still very new, isn't it? You know, I'm guessing it's been around for, 2 years? Maybe under, something like that. If you look at the rankings, there's not really that many great fighters in the Bridgerweight division. Bridgerweight, for anyone who doesn't know, is between cruiserweight and heavyweight. It's basically a weight division for the smaller heavyweights. However, Alexander Usyk is a smaller heavyweight, but oh my God, he'd absolutely demolish every guy in that Bridgerweight division. To imagine that you've had Alan Babic fighting for a world title probably tells you the standard of the pool of fighters you have that are ready to fight in that weight division at this moment in time. But as much as that can sound like I'm rubbishing it there, I do genuinely believe that the story of Tony Bellew coming out of retirement, going in there straight away with a WBC world champion, is somewhat of a fairy tale, and on pay-per-view, that would sell. Now, if Bellew has his eyes set on campaigning and having other fights, I would probably say that that might be a bad idea, you know. I just don't think he could make cruiserweight anymore. Then again, who am I to say that? I don't know. At heavyweight, the guys are too young, too big, too active for Tony Bellew, who would be 41 and probably 42 by the time he's even going into fights in that weight division. So I do think that realistically, the newly established Bridgerweight division is definitely the one he wants to target. Rosansky is the champion in that division that he wants to target. And I do believe that although I'm saying this would sell on pay-per-view, if Bellew was to continue to campaign at Bridgerweight, there's just not the names in that division to warrant pay-per-view paydays for him. So I would like to see this as a one and done, a novelty fight coming back, but being able to have some real credibility in the fact that obviously he would be fighting a world champion. Listen, it's up to Bellew, man. If his fitness is back to pre-retirement levels, if he's sparring at decent level opposition and he's faring well, and if he really feels like he's got the burning hunger and desire to do so, I'd say do it, man. Come out of retirement and have that extra payday and maybe scratch the itch that you've probably had there for quite a while. But if it's just about the money, then nah, man. I wouldn't come back if I was Tony Bellew, you know. We look at comebacks from other British boxing legends, and there's different ways of going about it, and you could definitely argue that it's been beneficial from David Haye when he come out of retirement, although he didn't reach anywhere near the level that he thought he could when he was talking about fighting Fury and AJ and Deontay Wilder and world champions around that time, and obviously had back-to-back defeats to Tony Bellew and then retired. That didn't go to plan, but then if you look at the paychecks he received, they would have gone to plan, you know, and I don't think David Haye was ready to come back in and fight a world champion or anyone that higher level opposition in his first fight. I mean, look, he came back and fought Mark Demore, you know, then he fought the Cobra, not Carl Froch, another one, I don't know who that guy was, I can't remember his name now, but then the back-to-back fights of Bellew. And let's remember, going into that first Bellew fight, it was somewhat of a gimmick, wasn't it, really? It was only when you saw the fight you realised, wow, Bellew can mix it here. So he didn't come back with his sights set on really challenging high level opposition straight away. We look at Ricky Hatton. He sort of did do that, you know. When he came back, he went straight in after, a 3-year layoff, maybe something like that, with Senchenko. Now, Senchenko had lost to Paulie Malignaggi, but decent fighter, very decent fighter. Hatton was doing well in the early stages, and then he does get stopped late down the line. So it doesn't always go well. More often than not, it doesn't go well, but I do think against the selected correct opponent, it can go well. And for me, if Bellew can get that Rosansky fight, as I say, certain underlying factors going into it, he'd need to be looking in the gym. Dave Colwell, if he was to be trained by him again, would need to be up for it and on board. But if everything falls into place, I think is a good fight for him to take. And I would like to see him back. So I'd very much like to know your lot's thoughts on this fight. Do you want to see Tony Bellew come out of retirement? And a little one for you here. Very interested. What fighter, realistically, British fighter, let's say, would you like to see come out of retirement? Or do you think could come out of retirement, you know? I think David Hayes, someone like that would be a silly suggestion. But there are guys like, let's say, for example, George Groves, you know? I know he had to have reconstructive surgery on his shoulder. Carl Froch is always teasing the comeback out of retirement. So there's a few guys there that I could maybe bring to mind when I say that. But anyway, listen, people, thank you very much for making it to the end of another video. Please smash the like button if you haven't done it already. If you're not already, subscribe to the channel. I'm working very, very hard on getting this sort of content banged out for you guys. I will see you all in the next one.